Hi everyone. In this video, we're going to cover the sentence restatement question type. Basically, this question type can be summed up as same idea, different words. So this question type is about paraphrasing. You may know what paraphrasing means, and if you do, you already know what I'm talking about. But paraphrasing is basically saying the same thing as somebody else, something that somebody else has said, or something that you may have said before, but with different words. Maybe changing the words to make it more understandable, maybe changing the words because you didn't like the words that you said before, but the basic idea is that you're saying the same information or the basic information. Now, what does this question look like? This is a very straightforward question. The question will always look like, which of the following best expresses the essential information in the sentence in bold? What does it mean? That they're going to provide a paragraph, okay, and a sentence in bold. This is what they mean by sentence in bold. And then you're going to choose from the alternatives the alternative that provides the same information as the sentence in bold. Important things focus here is best expresses, which means we're always looking for the best one. It's not going to be the perfect match. Maybe you feel like you're not expressing everything, but it's the best. Remember, we're looking for the best. And actually, throughout the TOEFL, we're always looking for the best. Not the perfect one, the best, like the best from the options that we have. Second thing to focus on, we have the essential information. Again, not all the information. We may be leaving some information out, but we have to contain all the essential information. Remember what I told you about the TOEFL being specific, and everything is about being specific. The questions are specific, so they will say best, not exactly the same, and they will say essential information, not all the information. Okay, so what should we do? The first thing we do, as with all the question types, we first read the question to know which question type it is. Once we notice that it's a sentence restatement questions, we're going to go to the text and read the sentence in bold. In this case, we don't want to read the context. We're going to go straight and just read the sentence in bold. We're not going to look to the sentence before. We're not going to look to the sentence afterwards. We don't care. We only care about the information in bold. We're going to get the main idea from the sentence in bold, okay? And then we're going to try to predict the answer. We're going to try to predict the answer just the way we used to do in the inference question or with the purpose question, and we're going to predict the answer by paraphrasing. Again, we want to say the same thing. We want to provide the same information as the sentence in bold with different words. Okay, after we have done that, we're going to go to the alternatives. If we find the alternative that literally has what we predicted, that's probably going to be our answer. If not, we're just going to go alternative by alternative, and we're going to eliminate wrong choices using the process of elimination that I taught you in the first video, or was it the second video? In one of those videos. Okay, what should we not do? We do not assume. Remember, all through all the TOEFL, we do not assume. It is what it is. If it doesn't say it, it does not exist. This is also important. We don't not assuming also means not inferring. Remember, this is not an inference question, right? This is not even a purpose question. This is sentence restatement. So if the sentence says it may rain tomorrow, we don't add the information that it's going to rain tomorrow. We just know that it may rain tomorrow. We just say whatever the text says. We do not autocorrect. Again, remember, we not try to say, oh, maybe he meant or the author meant this or that. It's just, it is what it is. Basically, and very important, we do not omit information. This goes along with the essential information. We're looking for essential information, right? So if a piece of information is essential, we don't want to omit it. If a piece of information is not essential, we can totally omit it. Let's say, I'm going to say tomorrow is Christmas, and in Christmas I received 3 gifts, and one of the gifts, I like one of the gifts very much, and I did not like the other 2. So in this case, almost all of the information looks like essential information, right? But if I say today is Christmas, I received all the 3 gifts, I like one of the gifts too much, I didn't like the other 2 gifts, and I sneezed. Like, maybe the fact that I sneezed is not essential to the text, so I can leave it out. All I want to do is not to leave out the essential information. So we do not omit important information. And lastly, as we always advise you, do not try to understand everything you read. Remember, you don't care. And if you don't care, don't try it, especially in the sentence restatement, because as I told you, you don't even care about the context. You just read the sentence in bold and you only work with the sentence in bold. Okay, we're gonna practice. I'm gonna give you 1 full minute to solve this one. Remember, first read the question, then go to the boldface. Only read the boldface sentence. Do not go to the context. Try to predict, and then eliminate the wrong answers. Okay, I'm going to give you 1 full minute to do this one. Okay, go. Okay, thumbs up. I hope you have an answer. We're still going to check. We're going to analyze the strategy. We're going to apply the strategy. So the strategy goes like this, right? We locate this. Okay, we locate the question type. We find that is their sentence restatement, and we go ahead and read the sentence in bold. So we just go and look for the sentence in bold, right? So we just care about this. We care about the sentence in bold. We read it. Okay, we're gonna read it. Okay, and we're going to focus on what is the important information. How do we know what is the important information? Basically, we're going to focus on subject verbs, okay, like any subject that is performing an action, or any word that is being described. So subject, verb, and adjectives. That's what we're going to look for. So now we're going to look for the important information. So what is the important information? So we have in the invasive species native environments, there are typical predators, parasites, and competitors that keep their numbers down. But in their new environment, natural checks are left behind, giving the invaders an advantage over native species. So you may think everything is important, but it is not. Right? We're talking about two things. Basically, we're talking about where is this? Not native species, okay, and we have invasive species. That we have two types of species: native and invasive, and we have a relationship between those two. What is the relationship? That the native environments of the invasives, they are predators, parasites, and competitors that are left behind. Okay, and the fact that the invasive species have advantage over native species. So now we're going to try to predict an answer. I want you to try to predict an answer. It can be anything. It can be, you can even use the same words as long as you don't use them in the same order, meaning your prediction cannot be literally the same as the sentence in bold. Okay, so we're going to predict an answer from the basic information. Now we're going to analyze the alternatives. So how do we analyze the alternatives? We're going to go one by one. So let's check alternative 1. Invasive species are organisms that leave their native environments behind and move to a new environment. Is this true? Yes, it is true. We have native invasive species leave their native environments behind and move to a new environment. Yes, they leave their native environments behind and they move to a new environment. Now, is this the most important information or the essential information that is provided in the text? No, it's not. It's just a definition. We're leaving out all of this information. We're leaving out the relationship. We're leaving out the predators, parasites. We're leaving out the advantage of one species to the other one. We're not even mentioning the native species, right? So this is not a complete answer. Remember the process of elimination. This will be true, but not my answer, which means this information is in the text, but this alternative is not answering my specific question. Okay, be very careful with this. It's not just because we find it will be the answer. Okay, we're going to analyze letter B. Native species are at a disadvantage compared to invasive species because they face environmental dangers that invasive species have left behind. And then we go to the relationship between native species and invasive species, and we have that the invaders are at advantage over native, which means that the natives are at a disadvantage compared to invasive, which is true. Now, you may see, like, what information am I leaving behind? I'm leaving behind the dangers that they left behind, like the predators, parasites, and competitors. We're not talking about this. Now, how do we know whether this is essential information or not? How do we know whether we are allowed to leave this information behind or not? Because if it's contained in another kind of piece of information that the alternative does provide. So here it says because they face environmental dangers that invasive species have left behind. So when they mention environmental dangers, they talk about predators, parasites, and competitors, right? So this is the dangers. So basically, if you notice, I'm not omitting the information, I'm just summarizing the information with a different word. Okay, so this will still be my answer. It can be my answer. It does say the basic information. It does not omit information. It's not contradicting, and it's not outside the scope of the text. We're still going to check number 3. Let's check alternative C. The greatest danger from invasive species is that they may spread parasites among natives. Now we go to the part of the text that talks about parasites and says that they leave parasites behind. They never talk about how they spread parasites. We don't know whether they spread parasites or not. Again, this is not against the information. This is not contradictory information because we don't have any information on the subject. Like, we don't know whether they spread it. We don't know whether the native species spread it. We have no information. So this is out of scope. Again, according to our process of elimination list, like the common mistakes in an alternative, this is just out of scope. It doesn't. We don't have that information. Okay, we're gonna go to the last one. In a new environment, predators, parasites, and competitors prevent invasive species from spreading as fast as natives. So we go to predators, parasites, and competitors, and they are left behind by the invasive species, right? But the text is saying that they prevent invasive species from spreading as fast as native species. But actually, it's the opposite, right? It's the native species, the ones that are not spreading as fast as the invasive species. And these predators, parasites, and competitors, like the parasites, predators, and competitors of the invasive species, have been left behind. So this is contradictory information. So the only alternative that is true and that is complete is alternative B. That's my only one, right? So the answer will be alternative B. Okay, and that's how we analyze. Remember, we're still going to apply process of elimination. So remember, we're doing the same information but different words, but it's the same information. When we say different words, it can be a synonym, it can be a word that contains another word, just the way here, the word danger. Okay, the word danger was going to contain predators, parasites, and competitors. We're going to see in a couple of videos that there's also a question called the summary question, in which if you can summarize a list or examples with the name of the category, like if we have just dangers, and dangers kind of encompasses predators, parasites, and competitors, it's okay that we just use the name of the category. We don't have to say every single example or every single subcategory. Remember, do not leave out important information. So in the first case, right, we had the definition of invasive species. Okay, that's the definition of invasive species, but that's not all the information that the boldface is doing, right? Again, if you read a book, if you try to summarize a book, let's say you try to summarize, or maybe you try to summarize a movie, or you try to summarize a TV show like Game of Thrones, where it's a very complicated TV show, you wouldn't sum it up as, yeah, there is a king and a queen and they have kids. Like, that's not even covering like a tenth of the information that you're supposed to give, right? So your summary has to be as complete as possible. Be very careful of contradictory information. Again, this may seem obvious, like how would I contradict myself? Like, it's obvious I will not choose an alternative that contradicts the information, but if you notice, it's more subtle than that. So here you actually saying that they prevent invasive species, but actually they're preventing native species. So actually this is contradictory. It's just the way this is stated, it may be confusing. Remember to be careful of words that imply negatives without being negatives themselves, like the word prevent. Like prevent is not letting, so it implies a negative, but the word itself doesn't contain any negative words. So be very careful with that. Actually, that's the last one, right? Careful with words that don't look negative, but are like prevent, seldom, rarely, neither, or sometimes just the word no used with a noun, like no animal, no person, no species. Okay, be very careful of those. Those don't look negative, but they are. Okay, and finally, try to practice a lot more. The homework, if you want to do more homework, I want you to do the from the Thompson book, exercise 5.2. Do not do 5.1. Remember, I'm not making you do all the exercises in that book, but that book is definitely a good practice. So you're going to do 5.2 from pages 105 to 114. I'm going to show you what the exercises look like. So previous to 5.2, there's 5.1. You're not going to do any of these. Okay. Let me mark this with a bigger stroke. Okay. You're not going to do any of these. So from page 105, you're going to go to the last part where they just explain 5.2, and then you're going to go straight to the exercises. There's only one question per paragraph because, again, remember, it's not about reading the whole text. It's just you're going to focus on the same on the specific sentence in the specific paragraph. Okay, so you do one, you choose one, try to apply the strategy. You can also see the answers in the same file that I'm sharing. Okay, and remember to correct, to use your notebook to copy your homework, and keep practicing. We'll see you, or you will hear me in the next video. Okay, bye. Oh, and remember to subscribe, share, and yeah, the whole song and dance. Bye. Thank you.